Here we have what's called the braid frog. I have a knot in one end and the loop on the other, and then we have this pattern. And we have notes on how to construct the braid frog. So the first thing that we need to do is determine the length of our frog. So I'm going to use this one as an example, and the top of the knot is marked at that line. The length of the shank is marked at the second line, and then the full length of the rest of the frog is marked here at the bottom line. And to construct the frog, I'm going to use this cord from our previous video on the knot, which I've kept in place, massaged in place, and I've also stitched around the shank just to hold the knot shape. Now, just to get the basic length of the cord of this frog, I'm going to lay it down on my template here, and my working cord, which is the longer cord, and I have about 30 inches of cord that I'm using for this. With my longer cord, I'm going to make a loop at the bottom of my template. So that's going to be the length of my frog. And then what I'm going to do with the loop is I'm going to wrap it around the top where the shank is, and figure eight the cord, the working cord, around the top of my frog. And just to hold that in place, I'm going to put a pin through my cord. Now I'll pull the other stem cord out of the way so it doesn't confuse us. So I have my loop and I have my working cord creating a figure 8 around the shank, and now I'm going to create another loop inside the previous loop, and I'm going to wrap my cord, my working cord, around the previous loop at the top, creating another figure 8 at the top. And the second wrapping is below the first. The one on the top is the first wrapping, this one is the second wrapping. And sometimes it just is easier to work it holding it than trying to keep it flat on a table. So here's my third loop on the bottom and my third wrapping on the top. So another figure 8. And I'm catching my stem or tail in each of these wrappings on the back. So another loop on the bottom, and another wrapping figure 8 style around the top. So that's what my top looks like. And here's what my bottom wrappings look like, or loops. And at this point, I really don't have enough space there to put another loop inside. So what I will do is pull my working cord through that hole in the bottom of my loops. And so this is what I have. The loops on the bottom, the wrappings on the top, and all in a figure-8 style. That's what the front of it looks like. And here's what the back looks like. Now this will not stay together by itself, and I'm using a thick cord here that does provide a bit of sustainability here in terms of sustaining the shape, but it still needs to be stitched. So what I'm going to do to make sure I'm stitching it properly is on the bottom loops I'm going to take a pin and I'm going to stick it through each one of the loops to hold them in place. And on the other side I'll do the same. Take a pin and stick it through each one of the loops. And then I can work from the back to start sewing these together. So turn it to the back. Now we have more cord here than we need. We can always trim that off. So I'm going to have the stem coming down, the working cord going up, and then I can take my needle and hold these two pieces in place. And just pass through parts of the loop so you can attach these to the loop, just so that we can hold all of this in place. Then we can snake our thread to where the pins are going through all of the other loops. And from the back, go through the back of these loops and hold them in place, and on the other side the same thing. Now, no one sees the back of this because ultimately it gets attached to your fabric, and so, but the idea here is to not let these stitches show on the front of the frog. And take a look at the front and see what that looks like. If you like what you see, then that's good. And then we'll stitch the sides together as well. So here on the back, once again, we have these other loops that went around it first. So let's bring our needle through all of those loops. So that should hold those loops in place. And then maybe with a little bit more stitching on the sides, in the back, just to hold those loops in place. And that should just about do it. Now we don't need the extra part of this cord here as well, so I'm just going to trim some of that off also. And just coming up here on the sides to pull these loops in place so that they stay where we have them. And I'm still on the back of the frog. And then if I come over to the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing here too. Just grab the back edges of all these loops, and after everything feels secure, you can give this a couple of slip knots and trim your thread. Massage your frog a little bit into place, and you'll have half of the frog done. And that's how you can do the braid frog.